that it's just finished its devotional period, and it's in a reassessment of where the Muslims are. And he views this as a potential power in terms of literally a transformative power. Now, what I would just like to say in finishing all of this off is that in terms where we are as Muslims in relation to this big picture is that we are living in a time literally where the vast majority of people have manufactured ideas. They have manufactured perceptions. People are literally their own internal experience of reality they have been deprived of. In the United States, which is probably more serious than Europe, I mean there's more activity here. The American people are almost brain dead in terms of the ability to critically think, to critically view what's taking place. They regurgitate the ideas that are given to them through the mass media. There's almost no analyses of what's going on in the United States and in the rest of the world. The few intellectuals that speak out are either very arcane, abstruse, they don't have, they're unable to connect with the masses of people and are left to conferences of limited amounts of people, the framework of the dominant culture. In other words, it does not question basic assumptions of the dominant culture. And this is one of the most effective techniques of this culture, is that it allows for debate to take place, but yet it delineates and demarcates the boundaries of the discourse. And you are not allowed to step outside of those boundaries, for instance, and break polarization. They love to set up polarization. You're either a capitalist or a communist. There's no that's it. They set the dialectic, and then you are allowed to debate within the dialectic that they've already set. They have not allowed Islam into the discourse. I mean, it's very clear. They do not allow Islam into the discourse. I find it fascinating that Hajj, which is the greatest gathering in the entire world, collective gathering of human beings that takes place yearly, and yet in the United States it is never aired on the news. It's never aired on the news. They'll mention it in a very short thing, or the beginning of Ramadan. They do not actually show the Kaaba. They don't show people circling the Kaaba. Just the visual picture of that is a very powerful experience for many people. When people actually see the Kaaba and see this circumambulation of the Kaaba, they're overwhelmed. Non-Muslims, when they see it, it's very powerful. And yet despite that, they do not air it. They don't show it. And so there is concerted effort not to present the Muslim image. Another thing that they love to do is to take extremist positions within the Islamic Ummah and literally blow them up, give full programs dedicated to looking at this, what they term quote-unquote fundamentalist type, fanatical, extremist. The angrier the better. They prefer very angry, vociferous people that are going to be shouting in the face of the camera and throwing out all of this anger and wrath. I mean, this is very effective in terms of presenting the Muslims as these kind of irrational. I mean, the Salman Rushdie case is a good example of that, of what was done. Book burning, irrational people that really, the stick is the only thing that's really going to work with them, like Pengrove or whatever his name was said in the Telegraph. So where we are as Muslims is we are dispersed, we are scattered, we don't have, as of yet, a collective vision. It has not emerged. I mean, it will, by the promise of Allah and the Messenger. I mean, it will emerge. I don't have any doubts about that, and I hope none of you do, because the hadith is very clear that the Prophet ﷺ said in the Sahih that after the Jababira, he said, سَتَعُودُ الْخِلَافَةُ عَلَى مِنْهَجِ النَّبُوَّةِ, that this inheritance will return on the methodology of the prophets. So the khilafah of the Muslims will return. This is by nature of the situation. When and how is another matter. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala challenges us in each generation to rise up in each generation and to establish this deen. وَأَقِيمُوا الصَّلَاةِ. This is the eternal challenge of the Quran. وَأَقِيمُوا الصَّلَاةِ. It's an imperative. The establishment of prayer, the unification of the Muslims in terms of community. This is a time, literally, our house is on fire, and we have to stop arguing about which channel we're going to watch. We need to literally recognize that the house is on fire and it's been burning for a long time. We need to put out the fire, and then we can decide how we're going to rebuild this house. But at this stage in time, anyone who is creating division, divisiveness amongst the Muslims is a shaitan. It's as simple as that. This is a shaitan. Those people that want to separate the Muslims through argumentation. We're not people of argumentation. Argumentation is a sign of error. The Prophet ﷺ said, مَا ضَلَّ قَوْمٌ بَعْدَ مَا أُوتُوا الْهُدَى إِلَّا مَا ضَلَّ قَوْمٌ بَعْدَ الْهُدَى إِلَّا أُوتَى الْجَدَلِ. No people ever go astray after they've been given guidance, except that it's replaced with argumentation. Argumentation is a sign of error. Malik radiallahu anhu did not argue. If he was in a gathering and people began to argue, he used to get up and say, Harb, you're a war. And we're of salam. We call Darul Islam is Darul Salam, the abode of peace. We're calling each other to peace. If we want to talk about things, first of all, we should recognize who we are and what our capacities are. If we are not scholars, then we should not be debating issues that we really don't know anything about. Sharia is something, it is not something that everybody can talk about. There are certain basic things that everybody knows. It's called al-ma'lum min ad-din bid-darura. And those type of things we all know. Khamr is haram. That's not a problem. But when we start getting into differences of opinion and these type of things, we have to recognize Amr ibn al-Ma'ruf and Nahi an al-Munkar is a maqam. Not everybody is capable of making Amr bil Ma'ruf and Nahi an al-Munkar, and the Quran itself uses a particle in order to articulate that. فَلْتَكُنْ مِنْكُمْ ummah. This minkum is tab'id. It's a partitive by the vast majority of scholars. Now this does not mean condemning wrongs that are very clearly wrong. We're talking about those things in which there is difference of opinion. And the ikhtilaf of this ummah, and I don't care, those people say this is a weak hadith, the ikhtilaf of this ummah has always been a mercy amongst those who have knowledge. We do, because Allah recognizes that أَلَا يَعْلَمُ مَنْ خَلَقَ وَهُوَ اللَّطِيفُ الْخَبِيرُ. Human beings have different capacities, cognitive capacities. We understand things at different levels. The Sahaba themselves had different degrees of understanding. Abu Bakr's understanding is not the same as the rest of the Sahaba, and there are many hadiths that indicate that. And those core Sahaba radiallahu anhum that were around the Blessed Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, they were not at the same, they were at a much higher intellectual capacity than other Sahaba. Which doesn't mean there wasn't benefit in all of them and blessing. No, but those people became the leaders. They themselves had disagreements, and yet they respected each other. Sayyidina Ali's fatwa differ from Umar radiallahu anhu. The fatwa of Ibn Abbas are very different from the fatwa of Ibn Umar radiallahu anhu. This is a fact. Historically, Ibn Mas'ud radiallahu anhu had different fatwa. So they themselves had different understandings. We should recognize that the Muslims do have different understandings, but they're within a generous framework. If people go outside of the framework, first of all, it is the job of the scholars to those rightly guided people who have the requisite knowledge in order to articulate these things, to delineate for us what those boundaries are, and when people go outside of those boundaries, unless the boundaries are clearly transgressed, in which every Muslim knows it. But there are many things that only appear to be a transgression to one person, and the scholar knows that in fact it's not a transgression, but rather it is a acceptable and rightly guided opinion of an imam from the A'immah. And so we have to begin to unify this ummah. This is the challenge of this time, is to begin to unify what has been separated. The kuffar have been dividing and conquering us for centuries. And we have to recognize that this is a game that we have to get out of. We have to just refuse to keep rolling the dice. Just say, no, we don't want to turn anymore. You play the game amongst yourselves. We're not going to play the game. They called literally the English Home Office, the British Home Office, and the French called the destruction and dismantling of the Muslim empire, of the Ottoman Empire, they called it the Great Game. That was the term that they used for it. It's just a game for them. Go and cause fitna amongst people. And Muslims should not fall trapped to these type of things. So we should recognize, first of all, that we are in a Dajjalic system. We are in it now. We're a part of it. We're in it. We should recognize it for what it is and begin to do those things that will enable us to protect ourselves and our children. My recommendation to all of you is now I know that the brother's not going to like this but if you have a television,